Today, I'm bringing you 10 games that flew under the radar, but shouldn't have. Coming in at number 10 is Sunkenland. Imagine the world flooded, forcing humanity onto the waves. Sunkenland plunges you into this damp future, tasking players with constructing a base from debris, diving into the silent depths of submerged cities for all the crucial tech, and defending their base against an endless horde of surprisingly agile, aggressive pirates and aquatic nightmares. It's Raft meets Subnautica meets Mad Max, the Water Edition. So, why the lack of success? Well, the game's not exactly obscure among the dedicated survival fan base, but the game certainly never reached the stratospheric fame of bigger titles. It arrived in a very crowded market of survival crafting games, making it difficult to stand out with the limited marketing buzz. Furthermore, being an early access game meant all the early players had to contend with the typical technical hiccups, like pirates phasing through your meticulously crafted defenses, which is less immersive survival and more frustrating bug report. So, why is it better now? Well, the dev team has been surprisingly agile, rolling out continuous updates like a lifeline in a storm. They fine tuned the core experience, patched up those pesky structural integrity issues, and added robust features like full naval combat and expanded base customization. Now you can actually build your base on the water. It's now a significantly more stable and engaging experience than its initial splash suggested, evolving from a bare-bones raft into a full-fledged functional armada. So what do I like about it? Hands down, the urban scuba diving is awesome. You dive into the flooded city ruins just to get all the best loot like blueprints and crafting materials because that's where it all hides out. That's excellent. Now, with a floating fortress construction, building your ultimate customizable aquatic headquarters is increasingly satisfying. You get to live out your dream of being the architect of a floating shanty town. The dynamic defense encounters are great. The NPCs, they actually think tactically. It's not just a peaceful building game where you got to protect your damn empire. It actually is something you got to think about. So if you need a new survival fix and always thought that Subnautica needed more gun violence and fewer giant leviathans, give this a shot. It's the only game where you can build a jet ski and then use it to hunt down pirates while worrying about the wooden floorboards back at the base and whether or not they'll repel the shark. It's basically a very charming, waterlogged, ambitious adventure that promises hours of damp fun. So, make sure you play it and pack a towel. Seriously, pack a towel. You'll need it. Coming in at number 9 is State of Decay 2. State of Decay 2 throws you into a persistent open world zombie apocalypse, not as a single super soldier, but as a humble community manager. Your job is to lead a ragtag group of survivors, build a base from a selection of predefined locations, like a fast food restaurant or a warehouse, then scavenge resources from abandoned buildings and make life or death decisions that have permanent consequences. It's all about resource juggling, character permadeath, and figuring out what happens when your best doctor is suddenly eaten by a juggernaut because you were trying to speed search a bathroom for painkillers. The original 2018 release was notoriously buggy, had significant technical issues, and was criticized for being quite basic in its initial features, especially with repetitive maps and some clunky co-op mechanics like tethering that made multiplayer feel very restrictive. It was a bit like finding a winning lottery ticket, only to realize that it was expired, and many players bounced off the game early due to the initial lack of polish. So why is it better? Well, Undead Labs performed an incredible Lazarus maneuver on this game. They released the Juggernaut Edition in 2020 as a massive free overhaul, which added major graphical improvements, a brand new map, and quality of life fixes that addressed most core complaints. constant, robust content updates have transformed it into a complex, deep survival simulator, adding higher difficulty zones and dynamic curveballs that keep the gameplay fresh even years later. The game is now what many hoped it would have been at the launch. So, what are the best parts? Well, permadeath factor for sure. The real fear of losing a high level survivor forever adds a layer of tension and emotional weight rarely seen in zombie games. It makes every supply run feel like a life or death gamble. Then there's the community building. Managing diverse characters, each with unique skills and personalities, creates an organic, emergent narrative that is far more engaging than a single set storyline. Then there's the co opness. You can play with other players now, which makes scavenging and zombie slaying a shared chaotic adventure. So, if you've ever yelled at a character in a zombie movie for making a stupid decision, this is your chance to prove you can do better. You'll quickly discover managing a group of survivors is like running a daycare for adults with questionable decision making skills. One minute you're a hero, clearing a plague heart. The next, your star builder has decided to fast search a police station with a spoon, attracting a horde and dying permanently. It's a hilarious, stressful, and incredibly addictive way to test your apocalypse management skills. Just don't get attached to anyone with the snores loudly trait. Coming in at number 8 is a game that is strictly linear. It's story driven and it's a single player experience, not an open world. This one is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a single player third person space romp that puts you firmly in the boots of Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. But unlike his movie counterpart, you're less of a cool guy and more of a questionable leader who accidentally kicks off a catastrophic chain of events across the cosmos. You'll need to rally your bizarre crew through a constant barrage of witty banter and combat that feels like an 80s rock concert with more lasers. It's a linear, story-driven adventure about a chaotic found family just trying to get by. Saving the galaxy just happens to be an inconvenient side hustle. Despite rave reviews and a Game Awards win for Best Narrative, the game failed to meet the aggressive sales expectations. A major reason for this was the lingering negative aftertaste from the publisher's previous superhero attempt, Marvel's Avengers. The marketing team from the Guardians of the Galaxy struggled to convince players that this was a completely different, purely single-player experience with no microtransactions, a refreshing rarity at the time. The low expectations following the Avengers fumble made many initially ignore what turned out to be a fantastic title. Well, the game's redemption story is powered entirely by word of mouth. Gamers who actually played it spread the good word, praising its fantastic writing and heartfelt story, causing it to build a massive following over time. Its release on subscription services like PlayStation Plus Extra and Xbox Game Pass helped it find a huge new audience who weren't willing to pay full price at the launch. Without any live service baggage, it arrived fully formed, requiring no major overhauls, only minor bug fixes. It was a completed adventure from day one, not a promise of a future one. As for the best parts, well, the constant character-specific dialogue between the Guardians is brilliant. Their conversations evolve over the course of the story, making it one of the most dynamic and genuinely funny cast interactions in gaming. Then, the incredible licensed soundtrack is woven into the combat itself through the huddle mechanic, allowing you to motivate the team with a blast of cheesy 80s rock. Fighting a giant alien while everybody have fun tonight is blaring is an unparalleled experience. Though while it's a non-stop comedy fest, the story doesn't shy away from heavier themes of trauma, loss, and found family. It grounds the space opera with surprisingly personal stakes, making you genuinely care for this team of misfits. So, if you've been burned by other big budget superhero games and their endless wallet sucking microtransactions, this game is your cosmic hero. It's the rare unicorn that doesn't ask you to spend another cent after you buy it. You get to command a team of interstellar idiots while a killer 80s soundtrack plays, which is objectively better than most life decisions. Just be prepared for Drax's complete inability to understand metaphors, or for Rocket to translate a simple, I am Groot, into a surprisingly complex philosophical observation about hats. It's a chaotic but beautiful mess, just like the Guardians themselves. Coming in at number 7, The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. Summoned by an aging Lord Gimli Lockbearer, you and your dwarven company are tasked with the slightly ambitious goal of reclaiming the ancient, monster-infested mines of Khazad-dûm, otherwise known as Moria. Players must delve deep into the darkness, managing hunger, sleep, and the very noise they make while mining, which can attract all sorts of nasties from the shadow. It is essentially a dwarf lifestyle simulator where poor resource management means an orc has a field day with your beard. So the game faced a couple of immediate hurdles bigger than a cave troll. First, it launched right on the heels of the universally panned Gollum game, making many fans understandably nervous about any Middle-earth game not made by Monolith. Secondly, its initial release was an Epic Game Store exclusive on PC, followed by a delayed, staggered console release, which fractured the potential player base at launch. The original version also suffered from being a bit basic and buggy, with combat mechanics that felt a little janky, leading to lukewarm initial reviews. So why is it better now? The developers haven't just sat on their hoard of gold. They've been busy smithing improvements. The game finally hit Steam and Xbox in August 2024 with the Golden Update, which drastically improved the game's stability, added highly requested features like a sandbox mode, difficulty sliders, and crucially, full crossplay across all platforms. These updates addressed many of the original technical and content criticisms, transforming it from a slightly rough gem into a much shinier piece of mithril. Some of the best parts? The attention to detail for Tolkien fans is superb. From finding signs of the Fellowship's passage to the voice acting of John Rhys Davies himself. Then there's the noise and light mechanics in this game. The game makes darkness a genuine threat, and the very act of mining creates a noise that draws danger, creating unique tension you won't find in any typical survival game. Then there's the co-op experience. Teaming up with up to 8 friends to explore and rebuild Khazad-dûm makes the logistics of dwarven life and death a memorable shared adventure. So, have you ever wanted to delve too greedily and too deep without actually unleashing an ancient fire demon? Now's your chance. The game is a charming, if slightly awkward, take on survival where your biggest enemy might not be the orcs, but the structural integrity of your base. Grab a couple of friends and argue over who's going to hold the light source versus the shield. A critical decision that determines if you're a hero or just a very well-lit snack for a goblin. It's a great way to experience Middle-earth if you prefer blueprints and beard maintenance over the heavy but yet serious plot points of the main story. And now we have number 6, the Saboteur. Step into the slightly inebriated shoes of Sean Devlin, a street-tough Irish mechanic and race car driver trapped in Nazi-occupied 1940s Paris. When a ruthless German officer wrongs him personally, Sean joins the French resistance. The game is an open-world playground of clandestine operations where you climb Parisian rooftops, hijack German vehicles, and literally restore color to the world by sabotaging the Nazi regime, one explosive mission at a time. The game wasn't necessarily bad at launch, but its timing was a spectacular piece of bad luck. It was the final game by the highly regarded Pandemic Studios before Electronic Arts, EA, unceremoniously shut the studio down just prior to the game's release. This meant minimal marketing support and no post launch polish for the original version, which was riddled with technical bugs, especially on PC hardware. Players also compared its mechanics to superior titles like Assassin's Creed and GTA 4 that had released around the same time. So, why is it now better? Its improvements are less about developer updates and more about its second life as a digital cult classic. The PC version, specifically the one found on Steam, was patched to run a modern system without the original multi-core CPU issues. The game's unique atmosphere and style have fostered a passionate fan base that looks past its technical jankiness. It had aged into a unique curiosity that stands alone in the World War II genre, which ultimately gives it a better reputation now than it had in its initial troubled launch. Three really good parts of this game? Well, there's the will to fight visuals. The oppressive Nazi zones are rendered in a stunning film noir black and white, with only the key colors like blood or Nazi insignias popping out. Liberate the area, and the color dramatically washes back in as hope is restored. You can climb almost any building in this game, making vertical exploration and sneaky assassinations a major part of the fun, offering a different vibe than most of the typical World War II shooters. From the jazzy soundtrack to the stereotypical but charming characters, the game nails its stylized vision of occupied France, creating a truly immersive world you want to spend time in. So most definitely, if you want to live out your ultimate killing Nazis fantasy while listening to a smooth jazz and climbing the Eiffel Tower, then this game might be your jam. Just be prepared for Sean Devlin's highly unstable Irish Cockney American accent, which changes mid-sentence and is arguably a bigger threat to the Axis powers than all the TNT that you plant. The parkour mechanics are a little clunky, but it's a small price to pay to punch a Nazi general in the face and blow up a Zeppelin. It's a janky masterpiece of style over substance. Number 5, Days Gone. Set 2 years after a catastrophic global pandemic that transformed most of humanity into freakers, Days Gone puts players in the worn-out biker boots of Deacon St. John, a former outlaw. Roam a beautiful yet brutal open-world version of post-apocalyptic Oregon on your trusty drifter bike, scavenging for resources, fending off infected hordes, and navigating the treacherous politics of survivor camps. You're just trying to survive and maybe find some meaning in a world that lost it all. The game wasn't exactly a commercial flop either, as some of the other ones, with millions of copies sold, but it launched to a very lukewarm critical reception that tarnished its initial reputation. The 2019 release was plagued with bugs, repetitive mission design, and a narrative that critics felt lacked originality. It was a bit like an overly long road trip that needed a tune-up. It eventually got where it was going, but the early parts of the journey were rough. The main protagonist, Deacon, was also viewed as a generic, brooding biker at first, making it difficult for many to connect with him. Now, why has it been better? Well, Ben's studio didn't abandon their baby. They put in significant work after launch, releasing patches that ironed out many of the technical problems. The subsequent PC release and 2025 PS5 remaster further polished the experience, introducing higher frame rates, better graphics, and a whole host of new features like permadeath mode and horde focus content. The game's reputation grew largely through word of mouth and its inclusion on subscription services, with a passionate fan base recognizing the depth and heart buried beneath its rough exterior. Three real good parts of this. Well, for sure, the freaker hordes. These large, terrifying swarms of zombies are truly unique and memorable, definitely memorable enemy encounters. Taking on a horde of 500 freakers is a strategic, heart pounding experience that no other game I've played has quite replicated. Your drifter bike. It isn't just a vehicle. I'm sure you've heard this. It's a mobile inventory, a weapon. It's your lifeline. Keeping it fueled, repaired, and upgraded is a core part of the gameplay loop that makes it feel like a genuine companion. And then, how about the story? While it may take a while to get it going, the narrative eventually finds its stride, delivering a powerful story about hope, friendship, the trauma of loss. Deacon's journey is a genuinely compelling one that reveals more nuance than initially appears. So, if you've ever been up late at night and you wanted to know what happens when a biker gang becomes a bunch of very competent and grumpy neighborhood watch members, then this is your game. You get to ride through the beautiful Oregon vistas, but just remember to keep a vigilant eye on your gas tank. The only thing worse than a horde of flesh eating mutants is a horde of flesh eating mutants when you're on a bicycle that's coasting on fumes. It's a hilarious balance between feeling like an apocalyptic badass and a slightly unprepared grocery getter. Number 4, Mafia 3. Set in a reimagined 1968 New Orleans called New Bordeaux, Mafia 3 follows Lincoln Clay, a Vietnam veteran who returns home to his adoptive family, the Black Mob. After the Italian Mafia betrays and massacres his family, Lincoln starts a brutal one-man crusade of revenge. The game chronicles his journey to build a new criminal empire from the ground up, all to systematically tear down the Italian mob's operation district by district. It's a tale of bloody retribution, 60s culture, and an absolutely killer soundtrack. Despite being a commercial success that sold millions of units, Mafia 3 was met with a very mixed critical reception at launch. The primary offender was its repetitive mission structure, which required players to engage in the same core gameplay loop of weakening enemies' rackets over and over to progress the main story, compounded with numerous technical issues, bugs, glitches, and a lock 30 FPS frame rate on PC. The overall experience felt unpolished and bogged down by padding. Many critics and fans felt a powerful character-driven story was trapped inside a tedious, uninspired open world. So, how did it get better? The game has significantly benefited from the passage of time and its 2020 Definitive Edition re-release, which bundled all the story DLCs and bonus packs. Patches have ironed out many of the performance issues that plagued the original launch, making it a smoother experience. More importantly, players now have the full package up front, including the DLC, which adds far more varied and interesting side stories. The repetitive nature is still present, but now fans can engage in the better regarded DLC missions to break up the grind. I say it like that because, quite honestly, I really enjoy the ability to go out and do all the missions. I like the replayability of this game and the fact that you can pick different lieutenants each time you play it and give maybe one lieutenant all the power. As for my favorite parts, other than that, is the soundtrack for sure. The 1968 setting comes alive, though, totally, with one of the best licensed video game soundtracks of all time. The radio is a constantly brilliant mix of rock, R&B, and soul that perfectly sets the mood. The narrative? Well, the narrative tackles difficult themes of racism, prejudice, systematic corruption, and it tackles it all head on, anchored by a compelling narrative style framed as a documentary. The gunplay? Well, the gunplay feels heavy and brutal with a focus and satisfying stealth takedowns and visceral melee finishes that emphasize Lincoln's military background. You really get a sense that this guy kicked ass in Vietnam when you're playing this game. So why should you play it now? Well, have you ever wanted to live out a revenge fantasy to a Killer 60 soundtrack? Then this is it. Just be prepared to have your rage fueled not by the mobsters, but by the sheer soul crushing repetitiveness of the side missions. It's kind of a game where you'll be told, we gotta take out their rackets. So many times you'll start wondering if your character is just a really short term memory. But hey, it's a small price to pay to watch some cinematic, brutal takedowns of people who wronged you. Revenge? Well, it's a dish best served with some groovy tunes, after all. And at number 3, Just Cause 3. The main star of the show, Rico Rodriguez, well, he returns to his beautiful fictional Mediterranean homeland of Medici, which has fallen under the tyrannical thumb of a dictator, General Di Raviello. Rico's solution to political oppression is simple: explosions. A lot of them. The game is a massive sandbox dedicated to creative destruction, allowing players to use a versatile grappling hook, a wingsuit, and infinite C4 to blow up military bases, blow up bridges, and blow up giant statues, all in the name of glorious, over-the-top rebellion. The Just Cause series had a solid following, but the game has significant performance issues at launch, particularly on consoles, where frame rates would chug along dramatically during the large explosions that are central to the game's fun factor. The original PC release also had several bugs that made the initial experience frustrating. Furthermore, some found the vast, beautiful world a little empty compared to its predecessors, with repetitive challenges that became a chore after a while. So how did it get better? Patches. Patches did improve load times and fix many initial bugs, making the game more stable. The game has found its true calling as a patient gamer favorite and a source of incredible user-created content. The game is often heavily discounted, making the immense amount of explosive fun an absolute steal today. Players going in now know what to expect and can enjoy the pure sandbox chaos without the day one disappointment. Some of the reasons why I love this game is really simple. First of all, there's the combination of the wingsuit, parachute, and upgraded grappling hook, which is arguably the best way to get around in any open world game, offering unmatched speed and fun. Then there's the physics. The physics-based destruction mechanics in this game are magnificent. Tying two objects together with tethers and watching the chaos unfold, it never gets old. And every military base is a literal playground of objects waiting to explode. Speaking of exploding, what about the C4? Rico carries an infinite supply of triggered explosives, which means the party never stops, and you're always ready to solve a problem with high explosives. The good kind, the high-grade Bavarium C4. If you need a game that perfectly answers the question, what happens if I attach a rocket booster to a cow and shoot it into a military fuel tank? Well, this is the game. Just Cause 3 is less of a game and more of a virtual playground of physics-defying chaos. Sure, the story is utterly forgettable, and the frame rate might take a vacation when things get really crazy. But where else can you liberate a nation primarily by blowing up giant, smug-looking statues of a dictator? It's pure, dumb, spectacular fun. Coming in at number 2 is Middle-earth's Shadow of War. You play as Talion, a ranger who shares his body with a powerful spirit of an ancient elven lord. Using his spectral power and the ring of power that you forge at the beginning of the game, which then is promptly stolen, setting off the main conflict. But you must delve deep into the heart of Mordor. The primary goal is to build an entire army of Uruks and Orcs through psychological warfare and domination to lay siege to Sauron's great fortress and ultimately defeat the Dark Lord's forces. It's a game about building a massive, personalized army in a very hostile environment. When the game came out, it wasn't exactly obscure, selling well enough, but its reputation was nearly torpedoed at launch by a widely hated microtransaction system. Players could purchase loot boxes filled with items such as orc followers, which many felt undermined the core appeal of the unique Nemesis system and made the endgame feel like a tedious grind designed to push purchases. The story also took some liberties with the established Tolkien lore, which irritated some purists. The game's narrative, it felt a bit disjointed, and the late game Fortress Siege missions could feel repetitive and padded out. But the game got better, a lot better. In a heroic move, developer Monolith completely removed the controversial marketplace and microtransactions in 2018, polishing the entire game in the process. They overhauled the grindy endgame, streamlining and improving the Shadow Wars finale and bundling all the DLC into the definitive edition. This transformation allowed the genuinely great parts of the game to shine through, especially for patient gamers who picked it up later and experienced a much more balanced and respectful product. It's proof that sometimes a game can be saved from itself with developer support. The three main things in the game that I really like, hands down, number one, without a doubt, it's the unrivaled Nemesis system. This dynamic engine creates a web of personal rivalries. Rivalries with randomly generated orc captains who remember your past encounters, adding hilarious and unpredictable stories to the game. And man, it's crazy. They will literally remember how you killed them and then start talking smack at you later about that situation. It's awesome. And then there's the fortress sieges. Leading a full army of your branded orcs into a large-scale assault on an enemy fortress is a truly epic experience that gives the game a fantastic sense of massive scale. The combat itself, really good. It's fast-paced, kind of Arkham-style combat, which is exceptionally fluid and brutal, allowing you to chain together kills and finishing moves to feel like an absolute powerhouse against Sauron's hordes. So if in watching the movies you decided that you really hate the goblins and orcs, and you've discovered that you've got a personal vendetta against a goblin who insulted you just because you look a bit less ugly than his mom, then you'll understand this game's core appeal. You'll spend hours meticulously building an army of orcs, each with their own ridiculous personality and fear, only to have your most loyal commander betray you for a bucket of grog and a shinier helm. It's like a soap opera in a video game, but instead of a dramatic reveals, there's just a lot of head chopping and you get to ride a dragon, which is, of course, an immediate win. This game is one of those games that I've played over and over, and I still don't get bored of it. I highly recommend you check this one out. And the best part, you can get this game discounted on Steam really cheap. And finally, at number one of my favorite games, Mad Max. In Mad Max, you step into the dusty boots of the main character with a kick-ass name, Max Rockenstansky. He's a shell-shocked wanderer of the post-apocalyptic Australian outback. After his iconic interceptor is destroyed and his gear stolen by a warlord named Scabrous Scrotus, and yeah, that's really his name, Max teams up with a bizarre devoted Blackfinger named Chum Bucket to build the ultimate desert war machine, the Magnum Opus. The game is a brutal open-world affair focused primarily on vehicular combat, scavenging for scraps, and surviving the harsh, sun-baked wasteland. The game suffered a colossal marketing oversight when it was launched. It was launched on the exact same day as Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, arguably one of the most anticipated games of 2015. Mad Max was completely overshadowed, and critically review scores were solid but not spectacular. Critics found the on-foot combat a little repetitive and noted the world felt intentionally empty, which made traversing the desert a chore for some. It was a good game that struggled to find an audience because everyone was busy playing Metal Gear Solid. So, of course, the question of the whole video is, how did it get better? Well, much like its developer, other title, Just Cause 3, which we talked about earlier, this game built a strong cult following over time. The developers released some patches to fix the bugs and balance the gameplay, but the game simply found its audience among these looking for a pure, dedicated wasteland experience that perfectly captured the feeling of the movies. Its eventual inclusion on various subscription services and frequent sales helped it find the massive player base it missed at launch, allowing many to discover a deeply satisfying, cohesive open world gem. As I said, I love this game. What do I love about it? Well, let's start with the car. The car is basically the magnum opus car, that is. It's basically your companion. Building and customizing your ultimate car with armor plating, spikes, giant harpoons, it's deeply satisfying, and the vehicle becomes a true extension of your survival strategy. Then there's the car combat. I mean, the car combat is fast, brutal, incredibly fun. Harpooning enemy drivers out of their car or tearing off their tires, that shit never gets old. And then there's the actual world that some people thought was, boring at first. The wasteland. It's stunningly rendered with oppressive lighting, atmospheric sandstorms. It captures the unique aesthetic of the Mad Max universe perfectly, immersing you in its own little hostile environment. So why do I think you should give it a try? Well, if you think that modern cars have too many safety features and not enough mounted shotguns, Mad Max is calling your name, baby. This game allows you to wander a giant desert with the singular goal of making a car that can survive a head-on collision with a war boy named Stank Gum. It's a pure, glorious power fantasy where the biggest threat might be running out of gas right before you fight a guy who wears his steering wheel as a necklace. It's janky, it's beautiful, and highly underrated. It's one of the most underrated trips to the apocalypse. Get out there, get it on Steam when it's on sale. I guarantee you're going to love it. And if you've loved this video or even liked this video, if I've made you laugh even one time or made you think, how the hell did I miss that game? Then do me a favor and drop a subscription, drop me a like, leave a comment, and if you really like it, share it somewhere. Get these videos into the algorithm because, guys, I'm just starting out on these type of videos. I'm redoing and rebranding myself, and I'm a little new to the game, so bear with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll make some more videos that you guys will enjoy later on. Till the next time, I'm Mr. BeetleBum. Have fun playing, guys.